at those pictures. The scene outside the Dakota, the apartment building in New York City on a fateful night 30 years ago. Throngs of fans, numb, grieving, flocked to the site where John Lennon had been shot and killed. They were searching for answers as to why his life was cut short, just 40. An impromptu candlelight vigil began on Strawberry Fields. They've been there every year since. It turns out that many people learned about the tragedy doing something they did every Monday night, watching football. Howard Cosell was announcing in the Orange Bowl in Miami, game against the Dolphins and the Patriots. It was tied with just seconds left, and ABC decided to break in with this announcement.
Yes, we have to say it. Remember, this is just a football game, no matter who wins or loses. An unspeakable tragedy confirmed to us by ABC News in New York City. John Lennon, outside of his apartment building on the west side of New York City, the most famous perhaps of all of the Beatles, shot twice in the back, rushed to Roosevelt Hospital, dead on arrival.
11:15, the time he officially died, and of course they held on to the news so that Yoko Ono could tell their son, and the world learned quickly thereafter. Our next guest will never forget that night. Al Joynes is a radio announcer, and on the night of December 8th, 30 years ago, he was heading into work in Oshawa, Ontario. This morning, he's in Ajax, Ontario. He now works for Q107 in Toronto. Al, good morning.
Morning, Heather.
Did you find out from listening to Howard Cosell?
Well, I think it was on in the background. I had to do the all-night show, so I was napping as we tend to do when we have to be up for 6 hours in the nighttime. And it was around 10 to 11 that I heard that he had been shot. And I never got out of bed so fast that night than I did, and zipped into work. And by, as you just mentioned, 11:15, he had passed away.
And when you heard first shot and then dead, what was your initial reaction?
Absolute shock. I thought it was, you think it might be, a joke or someone maybe giving, the wrong news, but it was an absolute shock. You just go numb. And because I had to be on the air, I had to, and I was a rookie. I'd only been on the air 2 years out of Ryerson, so I was like, this is my big chance. And it happened to be my hero that had been shot. So it was a double whammy, I think.
Yeah, going into work knowing you're on the huge story, there will rarely be a bigger one than that, and you're on the air. So what did you do with your show?
Well, I made the executive decision that the program director must have still been in bed. So I made the decision to play, Beatles songs and John songs all night. And we actually called around. We called to Liverpool. We were talking to people in restaurants, and we had phoned a few, other places across the big pond, and to try to get reaction. The management in the morning wasn't too pleased with us with the phone bill, but I feel that I did a good job.
Well, listen, the listeners must have wanted. That was the one thing that I remember: the outpouring, everyone wanting to, hold on to somebody and sort of make sense of what was happening.
Sure, and locally, around Durham and the radio station. Does come into Toronto. I was putting people on the air, and they were crying. People couldn't believe what I was saying. They didn't believe me, and it was one of those moments where you just stop and everything just goes in slow motion.
Yeah. Today, where you now work, Q107, it's interesting. 24 hours nonstop John Lennon and Beatles music. 30 years on. Why is that appropriate? Talk about the legacy that would merit 24 hours of that music.
Well, not only the Beatles catalog is just an amazing piece of work. John was totally honest with his fans and his music. His lyrics came from the heart. They came from the pain that John felt, the joy that John felt, and I think 30 years on, we now believe him. We get it even better now that we're older and we understand what he was trying to say.
When you talk about his being your hero, then I was checking out your bio. You talked about seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. Took a Beatles record to DJ a high school dance. Your first record.
Mm-hmm.
All these years on, still your hero?
He is, and that was the "Hey Jude" Revolution single, the 45, and he is still my hero, and I think that the basic message that John sent out was peace, and we can have it if we want it, even today.
You have a bit of a resemblance, don't you, too, Al?
Yes, I do.
People tell, okay, we're going to show the picture here on air. Take a look. Our viewers will take a look at this. There's a shot of you and a shot of John Lennon. Do people tell you that?
Yes, they do, all the time. And even kids will come up to me and say, "Do you know you look like John Lennon?" Or "Do you look like a Beatle?" You know, and it's like, well, thank you very much. It's probably the best compliment anybody can give me.
I was going to say, a bit of the living incarnation. Listen, it's been great to check in with you, Al. Thanks a lot. We'll look forward to listening, those of us who can pick you up in Toronto.
Thank you, Heather.
Thanks. Al Joynes from Q107 now, but on the air the night that John Lennon was shot, a murder felt by an entire generation. And as we say, 30 years have passed, but few have forgotten the impact John Lennon had on music and on the world.